Welcome to IAYTD, and today I'm reviewing the entire first season of Telltale's Game of Thrones. This will be spoiler free except for a few small moments in the very first episode that trigger our adventure. If you somehow don't watch Game of Thrones, this game won't make very much sense for you. It opens during a Season 3 event that is later called the Red Wedding, and you play characters that are all somehow related to a new family called the Foresters, who are bannermen of the Starks in the north. Like the show and the books both, you rotate playing through a handful of characters that each have substantial plots. They all are in physically different locations and interact with characters you know and love from the show, all voiced by their actual actors. There are 6 episodes total, each one somewhere between 90 minutes and 2 hours. If you've never played a Telltale game, it's fairly easy to grasp. Everything happens in what are called quick time events, which are prompts that flash on the screen telling you to do something. Press square in order to defend yourself, things like that. You also get moments where you can walk around an environment and choose to interact with or take objects you see. Why most people play Telltale games, though, is for the aspect of choice. In each episode, you're given multiple huge moments that might even determine if someone lives or dies. Do you respond to this person in anger or submission? These moments will theoretically impact your ending and how characters respond to you. So now that you have a good idea of what the game is, let's dive into what worked and what didn't work. On a positive note, the new characters they introduce here are all really interesting, and their story is unique enough to keep you engaged, even though you're on the fringe of what happens in the actual show. You're not saving Westeros here. It's all about family and things much smaller in scale. However, it still feels very much like Game of Thrones. No one is safe, and it's going to be a bumpy ride, which is why most people love the show and the books. This story very much fits in with that. There's also plenty of action, which can get brutally violent, and playing these action scenes is rewarding and makes you feel like an absolute badass. The voice work is all great, including the sometimes substantial roles for show regulars like Marjorie, Jon Snow, and Tyrion, just to name a few.
Tell me now. The Masters will be judged by the people of Meereen, not by you.
So let's talk about what didn't work. The animation will either intrigue you or alienate you. Telltale games have a very distinct look, but Game of Thrones veers closer to realism, which is hard when you know what characters are supposed to look like. The backgrounds are also a little subpar, sometimes looking like a static painting instead of a real environment. Here's the real problem with the game, however. Your choices ultimately don't change much. Yes, there are a few that really matter when someone's life is on the line, but even then the story continues with either character, almost exactly the same. And like the show, this series ends unresolved, like a season of television would. However, I don't know how likely it is that we'll get a season 2, which means that all of your choices and decisions will be forever unresolved. Without going into spoiler territory, it's almost impossible to create a season 2 that continues these stories. How can you have characters be important in Season 2 that might be dead in someone else's playthrough? How can you have entire storylines that have to be recorded and rendered with 2 different characters? They've written themselves into a corner instead of delivering one incredible standalone season. The season ends in an unsatisfying and incomplete way. Here's another complaint that might be unique to people who bought the physical copy. Only episodes 1 through 5 are on the disc. The finale, episode 6, has to be downloaded. So I'm playing on PlayStation, so I had to log into the PlayStation Store and download it. It'll be free, but I have a slower internet speed, and I was looking forward to sitting down for the epic finale, only to find an error screen telling me to download the last episode. It's a weird model to not include all the episodes. So is this worth checking out? I'm hesitant. If you love Game of Thrones, maybe. It's a cool look at a new story with fun choices, great characters, and some new angles on familiar events. However, the ending is like a show that got canceled too soon. It's unresolved, your choices didn't really do much, and the likelihood of a season 2 is slim. If this type of game looks interesting, look into Telltale's The Walking Dead or the Wolf Among Us franchises. Those are both better executed, unfortunately. I'm going 3 out of 5 just because it's unfulfilling in the end and ruins whatever momentum the game had. Thanks for watching.